Good evening, everyone. So, since we're Americans, we start on time, or as close on time as we can, so we'll reward you for being here. I'm Robert Jegovitz, and I've been asked to introduce the speaker, which I very much enjoyed meeting recently. We've developed a friendship online. He was still in the United States, and I was here in Panama. I'm the creator and the manager of a book club here in Panama. It's called the Panama Jewish Book Club, Jewish Literature Book Club, Living as a Jew in the Caribbean and in Latin America. And we meet on an ongoing basis. And through friends, I was introduced, as I said, to Ken. And in preparation for introducing him, I found out that this is a very erudite man. How's that for a word, okay? And he has, to his credit, I believe, if I counted correctly on Amazon, 29 books, more or less. And the book he's going to be discussing is referenced here, which is Panama 1914. And one of the things that I understood through he's from St. Mary's County in Maryland. That's my Panama Canal Controversies, told through the stories, news, and editorial cartoons of the early 1990s. So it really deals with the controversy of building the canal and all the politics that are going on. And here we are in 2016, and politics has not changed in the United States at all. Not at all. So, I'm really pleased to introduce Ken Rossignol, our speaker for this evening. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you, Bob. I really appreciate that. It's nice to have you all turn out, and I want to tell you, I always tell folks that when they first get to see one of my talks or meet me, is that if you're a professional educator, you're a teacher, professor, and if you take any exception to my recitation of the facts, please leave immediately, go to the nearest bar and get a double margarita, and in this case, in Panama, charge it to Martinelli. Okay? When the ships, I tell them charge it to the captain. What I'm trying to do with this book is to tell you the history of the Panama Canal from a little bit of the background of how you got there and how it came about for America to be involved. I'm sure many of you already know all the facts and history of the canal, but this one I'm trying to teach it to you or explain it to you through editorial cartoons, newspaper stories, and news coverage of the era, which you may not have seen before. So, in that respect, let's get started here. That kind of tells you what I said there. This is my book, and when you know that you're at the book fair. And also, I just want to tell you my book, so I call it Controversies of Creation. The newspapers of the late 1800s and early 1900s were actually superb when you compare it to today. I call today's news coverage pretty much drive-by journalism. You know, where they drive by in the barrio and they want to shoot people and they hit people they don't intend to and they don't kill the people they wanted to kill and so forth. Well, that's what today's media is all about. And there's very few media doing good, hard, investigative journalism. I'm going to tell you, in the early 1900s, there was some pretty good stuff out there. And one in particular, one newsman was Logan Marshall. And he did a lot of news coverage of the time. He worked in New York, and he was down here for a couple of years doing coverage. And he went back and tried to explain the early days of the French effort. And this cartoon here kind of shows Uncle Sam waltzing the damsel around, making it appear that this is Panama's idea to do the canal. And that was reflected in the news coverage of the day's end. This photo here would look familiar to you, a lot of students of history in Panama, as that's a symbol of the French effort, which could pretty much be used as a symbol of most French efforts in World War I, World War II, or any other time. You know, they ended in disaster a lot. But it was the work of a great guy who built the Suez Canal. And to me, that's another lesson in marketing here. We'll get to that. But the article there, the ad you see on the left, that's an ad that was published on the West Coast in California because people got the concept of the Panama Canal. in a broad way across a couple of continents, actually probably several. People got it, what it meant to have a trans-ocean transit for shipping. And they believed it was going to help commerce and migration in their area. Sometimes they didn't think the migration was going to be a good idea. Some things just never change. Business interests, of course, viewed it with great anticipation. A lot of the coverage of the news in those days accused Wall Street bankers of engineering the Panama Canal for their own profit. Maybe the French didn't get any. And if so, that would probably be a pretty typical banking transaction. You know, it's still true today. So the French, what do? They really completed about 60%. And to say that that's all they did is kind of a misnomer, because in my opinion, given the challenge and sell your politicians in every country, it's one good thing about politicians, they're always for sale. So Puck Magazine again did this cartoon and showed the big guy in the back there. He exemplified the railroad barons. Why did they care? They didn't want cheap shipping prices by water to compete with them. They liked telling the merchants of North America what they were going to pay to move their freight back and forth across the continent. And the Panama Canal was going to disrupt that. The Panama Canal was going to build new cities around ports on both the Atlantic and Pacific coast of North America, and disrupt shipping patterns around the world, like the Suez Canal did. So, what stood in the way? You all know this, you live here. Dense jungles. Actually, today you could add in heavy traffic. Bottomless swamps. Snakes and wild animals, vicious mosquito-borne illnesses, hostile Indians, marauding pirates, jealous colonial-era world powers. I think we still have all this. And railroad barons. Okay? Believe me, multinational corporations, they are the descendants of those barons. Puck Magazine again, the U.S. was trying to get Colombia to sign up with them on a nice little treaty. And what happened? As you know, as this cartoon in Puck pictured, that didn't work out good. Colombia rejected it. So, Uncle Sam, very resourceful. Logan Marshall, he quoted the French philosopher Cousin. He says, "Tell me the geography of a country, and I will tell you its destiny." Well, they weren't astute, but he wrote that. He says they had fully realized the enormous advantages that would accrue to their country from the operation of the canal by America. And when the opportunity seemed to be in danger of destruction by the action of the Colombian politicians, the leading men in Panama, who has been said, have harbored thoughts of independence for years, determined to take matters in their own hands. They've been planning this one for a long time. That's what he said. It was a threat brought against Americans. And that threat brought Marines from the USS Nashville. You see them loading into a boat here. The presence of the Marines, without a doubt, was a decisive factor. Because this threat was being brought that, Americans were going to be harmed. Okay? And this is to show that, this is not premeditated. This wasn't a comic opera. Now, the Titanic was a big ship, left Southampton